I never thought I'd be standing in front of my childhood best friend, now a cold, successful billionaire, as she asked me to father her child. But life has a way of bringing the most unexpected people back together. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more emotional family dramas that will tug at your heartstrings. The rain pounded against the windows of Elise Montgomery's penthouse office, 52 floors above Manhattan. Lightning flashed, illuminating her silhouette as she stood with her back to me, staring out at the storm-darkened skyline. I shifted uncomfortably in the Italian leather chair that probably cost more than my monthly rent. The silence between us stretched thin, like a wire about to snap. "I need your help, Jack," she finally said, her voice carrying that crisp, authoritative tone she'd perfected over years of commanding boardrooms. She turned to face me, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor. "And before you say no, I'm prepared to make it worth your while." I almost laughed. 15 years since high school, and she still thought everything had a price tag. "Elise, I'm not one of your employees or business associates. You can't just summon me after all these years and expect." "I want a baby," she interrupted, her perfectly manicured hands gripping the edge of her desk. For just a moment, I caught a glimpse of vulnerability in her eyes before the steel returned. "And I want you to be the father." The air left my lungs in a rush. Of all the things I'd imagined she might say, this wasn't even on the list. "Why me?" I managed to ask. "I'm the only man I've ever trusted," she finished for me, though that wasn't what I had been about to say. I was going to remind her that I was her past, someone she'd left behind without a backward glance when bigger opportunities called. I ran a hand through my hair, suddenly aware of my faded jeans and the coffee stain on my shirt sleeve. "Elise, I'm a single dad. I have Lily to think about. I can't just." "You have a child?" Something flickered across her face, surprise, then calculation. "That's perfect, actually. You clearly have good genes, and you know how to be a father." I stood up, anger rising in my chest. "My daughter isn't a resume qualification, Elise. And parenting isn't something you can just add to your list of achievements between closing business deals and buying vacation homes." Her perfect composure cracked, just slightly. "That's not what I meant." "Isn't it?" The Elise I knew disappeared a long time ago. The woman standing in front of me now sees people as assets or obstacles. "Which am I to you right now?" She flinched as if I'd slapped her. For a moment, I saw the girl I'd grown up with, the one who used to climb trees in my backyard and help me with math homework. The one who'd held my hand at my mother's funeral. But that girl had vanished years ago, replaced by this polished, calculating stranger. "You should go," she said quietly, turning back to the window. I hesitated at the door. For what it's worth, Elise, being a parent isn't something you can control or perfect. It's messy and terrifying and the most important thing you'll ever do. If you really want that, you need to be ready to let go of everything else. She didn't turn around, but I saw her reflection in the glass, a single tear tracking down her cheek, ruining her flawless makeup. 3 weeks later, I was at the neighborhood playground watching my 7-year-old daughter Lily on the swings when a familiar black town car pulled up. Elise stepped out, looking completely out of place in her tailored pantsuit among the casual Saturday morning crowd of parents in jeans and t-shirts. "Daddy, who's that lady?" Lily asked, running up to me with her curly hair bouncing. Before I could answer, Elise approached us, her confident stride faltering slightly as she noticed Lily. "Hello, Jack," she said, then looked down at my daughter. "And you must be Lily. Your father has told me about you." Lily studied her with the unfiltered curiosity only children possess. "Your shoes are very pointy. Don't they hurt your feet?" A surprised laugh escaped Elise, a genuine sound I hadn't heard in years. "Yes, sometimes they do. But grown-ups often do uncomfortable things because they think they have to." I raised an eyebrow at her unexpected candor. Lily, this is Ms. Montgomery. She's an old friend of mine. Can she come get ice cream with us? You said we could go after the park. I looked at Elise, expecting her to make an excuse about meetings or conference calls. Instead, she hesitated, then nodded. I'd like that, if your father doesn't mind. At the ice cream shop, I watched in amazement as Elise Montgomery, CEO of Montgomery Industries and one of the most intimidating businesswomen in New York, sat patiently listening to my daughter explain the complex social dynamics of second grade. When Lily went to wash her sticky hands, Elise turned to me. She's wonderful, Jack. You've done an amazing job with her. Her mother left when she was 2, I said quietly. It hasn't been easy, but we manage. Elise nodded, absently stirring her barely touched ice cream. That day in my office, you were right. About everything. I've been thinking about what you said. And I realized I don't just want a baby. I want a family. But I don't know how to have that. Everything in my life has been about control and achievement. Relationships, real ones, they've never been my strong suit. I studied her face, seeing cracks in the perfect facade. Why did you really come to me, Elise? There are plenty of men who would line up to help the famous Elise Montgomery have a child. She looked down at her hands. Because when I thought about who I would want to be the father of my child, your face was the only one I could see. You were always the best person I knew, Jack. The most honest, the most kind. Even when we were kids. That was a lifetime ago. Was it? Looking at you with Lily, I see the same Jack. You grew into exactly who I always thought you'd be. She took a deep breath. I didn't. Before I could respond, Lily bounded back to the table. Ms. Montgomery, do you want to come to my dance recital next weekend? I'm going to be a butterfly. Elise looked startled, then touched. I would be honored, Lily. As we walked back to our cars, Lily skipping ahead, Elise stopped me with a light touch on my arm. I'm not asking for anything right now, Jack. I'd like to get to know you again. And Lily too, if that's okay. For the first time since she'd reappeared in my life, I saw sincerity in her eyes instead of calculation. One step at a time, Elise. That's how real relationships work. She nodded, a small, genuine smile replacing her usual practiced one. I think I'm finally ready to learn. Over the next few months, Elise became a regular presence in our lives. She showed up at Lily's dance recital with flowers. She joined us for movie nights and Sunday brunches. Gradually, her designer clothes were replaced by jeans and casual sweaters when she visited. The sharp edges of her personality softened. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, we sat on my small apartment balcony sharing a bottle of wine. I fired my COO today, she said suddenly. I looked at her in surprise. The one you were grooming to take over day-to-day operations? She nodded. He wanted to cut corners on safety regulations at our factories overseas. Said it would save millions. When I refused, he implied I was getting soft. She swirled the wine in her glass. Maybe I am. 6 months ago, I might have considered it. What changed? She looked at me, her eyes reflecting the city lights. Everything. Meeting Lily. Reconnecting with you. Remembering who I used to be before I let ambition consume everything else. That's not getting soft, Elise. That's finding your humanity again. She was quiet for a long moment. I've been seeing a therapist. Trying to understand why I became so cold. So focused on success at any cost. And I realized I've been trying to prove something to my father my whole life. Even after his death. That I could be as successful as he was, but without his failures. She set down her glass. He was never there, Jack. Always working, always chasing the next deal. I swore I'd be different if I ever had children, but then I became exactly like him. I reached across the small table and took her hand. The difference is you recognized it before it was too late. She squeezed my fingers. I still want a family, Jack. But not the way I asked before. Not as a transaction or an achievement to check off a list. What do you want, then? Her voice was barely above a whisper. A second chance. To be the person I should have been all along. A year later, Elise moved out of her penthouse and into a brownstone in our neighborhood. She stepped back from day-to-day operations at her company, appointing a new COO who shared her renewed commitment to ethical business practices. She started a foundation focused on supporting single parents. And she became a fixture in Lily's life, helping with homework, attending school events, teaching her to stand up for herself while still being kind to others. One winter evening, as snow fell softly outside, Lily asked the question that had been inevitable. Daddy, do you love Ms. Elise? Because she looks at you the way Princess Tiana looks at Prince Naveen in my book. I glanced at Elise, who was pretending to be very interested in the cookies she was arranging on a plate, though I could see the blush creeping up her neck. Yes, Lily Bug, I do love her. Very much. Good, my daughter said decisively. Because I asked her if she would be my mom, and she said she had to talk to you first. Elisa's eyes met mine over Lily's head, filled with hope and fear and love. Later that night, after Lily was asleep, we sat by the fireplace in comfortable silence until Elise spoke. I never answered your question that first day. When you asked, why me, and I interrupted you. I remember. You were going to say, I'm your past, weren't you? I nodded. She took my hand, her fingers no longer adorned with expensive jewelry but still elegant, still strong. I should have let you finish, because you were right. You were my past. The best part of it. The part one never should have left behind. She took a deep breath. But I'm hoping now that you might also be my future. I pulled her close, thinking of the long, complicated road that had brought us to this moment. The arrogant billionaire and the struggling single dad, I murmured against her hair. Who would have thought? She laughed softly. Life doesn't follow a business plan. That's what you've taught me. And what have you taught me? That it's never too late to find your way back to where you belong. As the snow continued to fall outside, covering the city in a blanket of white, I realized that sometimes the most unexpected journeys lead us exactly where we need to be. Elise had come back into my life asking for a child, but what she'd really been searching for was her own heart, the one she'd left behind long ago. And in finding it again, she'd completed our family in ways none of us could have imagined. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more emotional family stories that remind us it's never too late for second chances and that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in love.